Get Marquis down off the stage. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Swamp Rose, or you can call me Kiki, and I have two special guests with me tonight. If you could just please welcome 12 Gauge. 12 Gauge, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Good. And I also have Nina Kelly here. Nina, how are you tonight? Oh, let me unmute you, darling. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that.
How
I'm
are you?
fine. How are y'all doing?
Doing great. It's a beautiful Saturday where I am in New England. We got just incredible weather today, so we were blessed. I don't know what it's like where you guys are.
It's
Smoking
storming. It,
everything.
it was stormy here in Texas.
Oh, you're
Cloudy.
in Texas.
Yes.
I'm in
Yeah.
the great state of Alabama.
Did
Well, I
you
love
say?
Alabama.
You can
And
have it.
I am currently traveling, so I'm just going to keep my camera off because I don't have my studio or my lighting. But I just wanted to say hi, guys. So let me just move this microphone a little bit closer to me. I wanted to start by talking to you guys about the most current thing that's going on, which is the hearing that we all just witnessed 2 days ago. Also, there were a couple new documents that were dropped regarding change of venue in the case against Brian Kohlberger. So I wanted to first turn to you, 12 Gauge, and I haven't heard any of your opinions on what we saw in the hearing. I have a few specific questions, but I thought first, if you could just tell me a little bit about your impressions after watching the hearings.
Okay, before I begin, I want to tell the people the only reason I'm wearing the shade tonight is I was having a little bit about it with vertigo earlier, so the light kind of hurting my eyes. So I thought I'd put on the shade, the aviators. Um, as far as the hearing, I took some things away from it, and one of the biggest things that I took away from it was the fact where at the end of the disposition of Detective Corporal Payne, Ann Taylor was asking him about the cameras on 95, South 95. And she concluded with, so what you're saying is you didn't see my client's car going south on 95. And he said, no. Another part of it is during the questioning and everything, it came out that the car that they were initially, that after all the confusion and everything, um, that the Elantra turned out to be an 11 to a 13. So those couple things really stuck with me. And the fact that, the disposition of Cy Ray was very impressive. You know, it was all like watching the preliminary take place had we had one because she's so um the defense is not getting the the discovery evidence that they've been asking for so long that this is totally unnatural when it comes to a case. It usually does not happen this way, but since they are not getting the evidence, the discovery that they've been asking for, it had to go this way. So those are a couple things that I took away from it. And like I told you, Kiki, I'm long winded and I'm used to running the show. So anytime you want me to hush, just jump on in there. It's okay to cut me off. All right.
No, I love hearing what you have to say, and I love hearing the different opinions because, as you know, I was on the Drunk Turkey show last night, and I got to hear Daniel's perspective from an ex-law enforcement and somebody who's like been involved in trials, and now I'm hearing your perspective as a criminal justice major, and it's just interesting. Um, when it comes to I'd like to know your impression on one specific thing. Do you think that Ann Taylor was being told do you think that did you think the pain was being invasive and just not giving specifics of where certain evidence was located in those cameras and just referring her back to the evidence clerk? Or do you think that she actually meant that that evidence was never existed? Because a lot of people have minced these words up, and I'd just like to know what you think.
Well, it was kind of, I do remember watching that portion, and whenever she would ask that question, it seemed like he was deflecting the question by being able to say, well, the evidence clerk has it, or, I turned it over to the evidence clerk. So it could be a little of both because I really don't know, but my opinion would be that he was deflecting the question so that it didn't look like they didn't have it, or the fact that they were incompetent and misplaced it. It's easier to put it on where it was supposed to be. Does that make sense at all?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, we don't know, just like you prefaced that answer with, we don't know, we're just guessing, but I
Right.
could see it going that way too. I would hope that they were being evasive in answering the question, and that's truly the reason why, you know, we haven't seen evidence. Nina, have you been listening into us while we were talking? Hey, Nita,
Yeah,
darling.
I'm having some major difficulty right now, but I'm fixing it.
Well, take your time, but when you're ready to chime in on the hearing, I'd love to hear anything you have to say. I got another question though for 12. Um, so 12, during this hearing, we heard Payne saying what sounded like, to me, the clearing up, to me, why they started out with 1 year model of car and then they moved on to the next. And I understood it one way, but a lot of people have heard it a different way. So I'm going to tell you how I thought I understood that statement. So I believed she was kind of trying to say they were going with it was about finding a vehicle similar to that type of year. So they had found, the FBI expert had found that whatever vehicle was in that picture was similar to that 2011 to 2013 Elantra, which I think is pretty good out of all the makes and models of cars out there in the world. They honed in on this one. And they were basically, from what the testimony under oath, I thought he was saying was he was just looking for a car similar. Ooh. So anyway, I'll stop talking and let you guys answer. Oh, Nina, we got some feedback.
Oh yeah, my phone broke out, so I was in the middle of changing from my phone to a tablet.
I thought somebody's phone or something became possessed.
Yes, I guess I did it okay.
Oh, dismantle. Sorry, Nina. We're getting a lot of feedback. Nina, it sounds like the microphone's being blocked by something. And it. I wanted to read this comment by poor Nina. Poor Nina, she'll be.
Poor Nina.
And I really want Nina on tonight because Nina Nina was featured on the Drunk Turkey show as well. She sent me a copy of that video to kind of set my nerves at ease before I went on. And so
Okay.
I wanted to give Nina a chance to give some of her. She has a very unique experience and a lot to lend, and I thought she'd be a great guest for tonight. So I was hoping she comes back on, but why don't I just read this comment real quick from Deceptions Dismantled Echoes of Clarity, which says, I just caught the way he side-eyed Bill. I could be wrong, but it went through my head. I wonder if he gave it to them, but they didn't give it to Anne. And when you say them, I think you mean the defense team, or FBI gave it to just the prosecutor and the prosecutor hasn't given it to Anne. Let me go down.
Well, one of the things that I spoke with a guest earlier on my show is we were talking about that as far as most of the stuff that they talk about, well, it's on somebody's desk, or we don't really know where it's at, or we haven't backed it up, or this, that, and the other. And we found it difficult how somebody would have that type of important evidence and not know where it's at. This is one of the biggest cases um, that that's been around in a long time. So how could you misplace it? How's it not completed? How's it not where it needs to be? It's very frustrating to hear that from the professionals that are being paid to make sure it goes where it needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, hold on. So 12, you tell me if you think this could be a possibility from what you heard too. I almost felt like what Payne was saying was that you're asking the wrong person. The person you're supposed to ask is the one who inventories away these videos. And then at another time, I heard him say he was only showed the most relevant clips. So, I mean, I would say, as the lead investigator, if he was responsible for knowing every timestamp of every video that has over 1,000 hours, I mean, it just doesn't seem possible. That would be outsourced to the person in charge of the evidence. So could it be that maybe AT was asking the wrong person? And again, I don't know anything. I'm just an amateur, guys. I'm just thinking.
Well, I would believe, I mean, just in my mentality for detail, is if I'm leading the show, if I'm the lead detective, I'm going to have my hand in all of it. I'm going to know what's on those cameras. I'm going to know what's on the document that's being transferred left and right. But it's also protocol, maybe they didn't give him the luxury to be that transparent with the information. Maybe they only showed him whatever they wanted him to see, because he was a young officer at that point. And if I remember correctly, he hadn't investigated a lot of cases, especially a murder case like this. So it would be, but regardless, if you're being labeled the lead guy, why don't you know all this? Because you're the one that's putting all the pieces together to have to write the probable cause, to arrest the individual, to show the judges, hey, this is the guy. This is the guy based on what we have. But if all you know is what you're prevalent to, that means that you only wanted to see certain things. You
Wow,
didn't
that's
want
a powerful
to.
statement. That's a powerful statement.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's you're defining what bias is, but I do like the way you put that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
cut you off. I just wanted to
Oh, you're
emphasize
fine.
what you
You're
were
fine.
saying. Um,
You're fine. I mean, if you're only interested in being shown certain things, just like, okay, I know that this is this person, I get tunnel visioned on the certain evidence that I have, and therefore that's all I want to know. I don't want to know about anything else, because then it'll deter my focus on my tunnel vision. And that's what I believe. I mean, I meant to say that earlier, is they got tunnel vision on this case. It wasn't corruption in my view. I believe that it was tunnel vision, on the point of, this is what we want to see and this is what we want to present. So I could be wrong.
oh, sorry for the noise, you guys.
Are you okay?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry for that. Let me read a couple of these comments, just because as you were talking, I noticed I think a lot of people were agreeing with some of the things you said because the chat lit up. So let me just read a few things here. We're gonna go back to deceptions. Deceptions, I'm just gonna call you deception tonight. I said that because Brett Payne said it would be in that box or whatever with evidence. Okay. Oh, they still don't have full autopsy reports either, since preliminary or something. Is that true? Do we know that, 12? Have you heard that theme?
I've
comments?
never really heard anything about the autopsy reports other than certain people were present, certain people were not. That's all I know about the autopsy. That's all the report that I ever heard about that.
Yeah, and I'm just going to give a trigger warning before I say what I'm about to say. Trigger warning to anyone sensitive ears. What I heard about the autopsies is because of the irregularities in the intensity of Ethan's wounds, his parents had ordered a second autopsy. And then on
Okay.
that same note, again, this is a trigger warning. I don't want to be insensitive talking about these things, but the 3 of the bodies have been cremated. So we can't even revisit those wounds again. So anyway, I just wanted to say that's what the full extent of what I know on the autopsies. Now, if those were conducted, those 5 autopsies, I would think the report would have been. So I don't
Oh,
know,
of
maybe,
course.
maybe,
Of
yeah,
course.
I'm thinking maybe he means the report hasn't been submitted to the defense. Is
Because
that what?
the report that they write, you know those wound reports that they fill out, like they have 2 little bodies and they're side by side, there's frontal and back, and then they have all these questionnaires on the sides, and then at the bottom you can write your whole understanding. It is my understanding that whenever you're filling out an autopsy, you're filling out the wounds, what types of wounds, how many wounds, cuts, was it a slash, was it a stab, things of that nature. I mean, they should be able to have copies of those if they don't have the originals. I mean, I don't know why it would take almost a year and a half to get that type of stuff over to as discovery if they don't have those pieces. You get what I'm saying? Like, where's all this evidence at? Because anytime that we see lawyers carrying cases to the courtroom, it's always in one of those Xerox copy boxes, So you would believe that everything is put in those boxes chronologically that has to do with the case.
I don't know. I'd be baffled to know. But if somebody knows a quote where this autopsy has been, let me just get the mic close to me.
If somebody knows a quote where this autopsy has been referenced that it hasn't been turned over fully to the defense, I'd love to know if you read that in an article or if you saw that somewhere. Just let us know in the chat so that we can pull it up and read it. So, and we got Nina back. Nina, hey.
Hey, Nina, welcome back.
Sorry about that, y'all. I had to get rid of Demonica. My personalities are not cooperating, so they said I sounded like a demon.
Well, I'm glad your proper alter ego's here with us. Thank you, darling.
Yeah, it was a 5, but I survived.
Before I go reading more comments, is there something you wanted to add to our comments right now about the hearing that we've been talking?
It was terrible.
Okay.
For the prosecution.
All right.
I
Well,
mean,
go ahead. Please go ahead. Tell us your thoughts then.
no, I mean, I am not any kind. Look, I am just a 55-year-old grandma, okay? And I know it was terrible. I mean, so, I mean, you got this missing and that missing, and oh, I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah, no, I just looked at it yesterday. I mean, come on. I mean, I was so embarrassed for them. And I mean, I'm not saying that, they may get it all together, just like, Cy Ray said, that he, holds the opportunity to be able to come back 6 months and say something different, if they get it all together. But, boy, they better hurry up and get to work if they're going to get it together, because right now, and I'm not a guilter or a pro burger. I mean, I don't care either way, long as the right person gets prosecuted. That's all I care about. Mine is justice for Ethan and Kaylee and Maddie and Xana, and for Brian. Koberger deserves justice. If he didn't do it, then, well, if he didn't do it, or if he did do it, his life's over anyway. Because either way, he's never going to be able to have a quality of life, because somebody's not going to believe he's guilty, or somebody's not going to believe he's innocent. So he'll always be in limbo. Sorry, I got off topic.
No,
You're fine. You're fine.
I'm so glad to have your authentic feelings on this. And Beth made this statement just to add to what we were saying about the coroner reports. She just wanted to preface that by saying, but the coroner had made public statements, and I agree. And there's another thing that we know about the autopsy when we talk in terms of autopsy, which has been a little troubling, which is, do y'all remember when Christy G came out and said that her 16-year-old daughter had a phone call from the coroner explaining the wounds? Do you remember that
Yes.
in that interview? So, I mean, I'm just pointing
Yes.
out some of the anomalies about the coroner report. I mean, even if you're a brand new coroner, I just find that it, it could have been a prank. I don't know what to think of that. Just your immediate thoughts on what I just said, either of you. 12?
Oh, um,
Sorry,
I
guys.
was distracted. Let me show you what I was distracted over.
Those
You see
alternate
that?
personalities.
What is that?
You see that? It's a
Is that
cookie.
oh my gosh, that looks perfect. What do we got? Is that like a whoopie pie cookie or something?
It's a. Let's see. It doesn't have. I think it's some kind of s'mores cookie.
Oh my god.
I got it at a show today that I was walking around and they were selling them. So I was like, I got to get that. So I was distracted by it. It was like sitting there looking at me.
Well, now I'm
Um,
hungry.
can you repeat the question?
Well, I was talking about, Christy G saying that her 16-year-old daughter, another anomaly to this whole autopsy thing, is her daughter got that call. And before I turn it over to you, I just want to read this comment out loud by Out of Order in the Court Thoughtcast report, where she says, I want to see the toxicology report. And I couldn't agree with her more, because the one thing I was always wondering, it's not necessarily about the recreational drug use, but we're always, yes, 12, we've watched how a knife can incapacitate someone really quickly, but can it do it every single time with 4 people with somebody who's never done it before? And so I'm wondering, could there have been some, I mean, just alleged speculation here, maybe some, what do you call it, chloroform or something? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want to see those toxicology reports too. Was there like a stun gun? Did their heart, I don't know. What can they prove? Was there marks of a stun gun on there? Just thoughts going through my head. And I'll turn it over to you guys because I'm blabbing a little much tonight.
Well, I've heard stun gun. I've heard stun gun before, and I've kind of even talked about that with Jeff H. A stun gun could have been used. Jeff has his own theory, and I'll let him explain his own theory. But getting back to your question on the coroner, I have read about autopsies, and the process was correct as far as the coroner is to get with the family and disclose the level of death, any kind of questions that they might have to brief them on the body, on their family member. Where she was incorrect was using a minor to relay that information to. She should have disclosed it to the mom or the dad, or even Olivia, which is she's an adult. So the fact that she relayed that information to a minor was kind of sketchy. I don't know why she chose to do that. I guess the minor convinced her, hey, that's my sister. I'd really like to know this, that, and the other. Who knows what was said, but the process was correct. Her deliverance, once again, failed to meet the mark, in my opinion.
Nina, your thoughts on what were the two things we were just talking about, the autopsy and the toxicology report. Do you have any immediate reactions about that?
Well, my first reaction is it's always nice to know that you can do the autopsy on Friday night and then go and defend the killer on Monday. So, I mean, because isn't the coroner like a defense attorney too?
It's funny because Mikey S just left this comment here. It says she's a lawyer, a nurse, a coroner,
Yeah,
a probe, and a DoorDash driver.
exactly. I mean, so I mean that's the first problem I have is I mean that's anyway that's neither here nor there. And one of the things that I did some research on as far as the knife is uh, the research that I found was explaining how like when it if it bends that it can have a different wound. If it hits a bone and chips the blade or anything, it could cause a different looking wound. You know, that according to any kind of damage the knife is going through while doing this, it can cause it to, you know, change and look like, you know, different weapons, but it's the same weapon, it's just damage to the knife.
Yeah, 12 and I have definitely. Well, you know what, 12, I'll let you talk before I talk over you because we've talked about this before. Definitely.
About the different
Like if,
wounds.
for instance, a K-bar, what the different things a K-bar can do with its different features. For instance, with or without serration. And I just before we go further, I just want to make sure we're giving a trigger warning. This is incredibly sensitive material we're talking about, but this is a true crime podcast. If you just stumbled onto us, so anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm no expert as far as knives are concerned, but I did do probably about 4 videos on the topic, and you know, in one of them, I was curious to know, you know, because they talked about defensive wounds and things of that nature, and I've taken human anatomy, and you know, one of the things that I learned there was the nerves and the tendons and you know all that stuff. Well, in this article that I read, they were talking about if an individual was slashed in certain areas of their body, they would be incapacitated almost instantly. So in that article, it talked about the femur or the radial bone, which if you slice it or slice right here, the muscles are going to constrict, and it's going to enable you because your muscles are constricted to help you bend and move. So if they're sliced, they're unable to constrict. So they're going to just kind of flop, you know. And also right here in the upper arm, if it's slapped, it's going to do the same thing. And one thing that I find is fun, not funny, but interesting, is like in the movies, you see somebody get shot right here, right? Well, they're able to brush it off, throw people around, and you know, beat them up and all this stuff. But in reality, if you get cut or you get shot, it cuts through tendons, muscle, nerves, all kinds of stuff, and instantly your arm loses the connective area and it kind of just falls to your side. And I've had people debunk that, you know, they've tried to debunk it, but I didn't create the theory. I read it from an individual who is a knife specialist. So also he stated in the torso area, if you get stabbed in the abdomen or in the liver area or anything like this, it's also going to cause you to slump. It's going to cause you to not be able to hold your weight up because it's cut the muscle that's helping you stay taut. It's kind of like a rubber band. If you stretch the rubber band or any kind of rubber cable, you're able to maneuver it, right? You're able to go all over. But once it's cut, what happens? It goes together like that. So obviously, if you have a cut in the neck, this is a kill zone. Instantly, whether it's a stab or a slice, you bleed out. The thing that I found interesting about these other areas where, you know, you're stabbed, if it's a stab or a slice or a slash, oftentimes it bleeds under the skin. If it's a puncture wound, based on the ability of the heart still beating, it's not like we think it's going to spew blood every time the heart beat, because it's not going to be like that. It's going to spew out just like a trickle in a water hose. And I thought that was very intriguing, because people's mental imagery of this crime, it puts them into saying, okay, they got stabbed, so instantly it just gushed everywhere. And that's not the case at all. I would suggest that if you don't believe what I've just stated, that you go look it up and you read on it so that you can get your own interpretation of what I just talked about. Because, sometimes people have to do that in order to educate themselves. And
I've heard that also people, I mean, it's interesting you say that about the neck, because I thought at first you were talking about like the pectoral muscle, or maybe if somebody stabbed in the intercostal muscles, like, in between the rib cage, but you're talking about specifically on the neck. And when you say that, it reminds me of
yeah,
something. Yeah, because when we were talking earlier, and I was telling you, I used to work in a rehab department, in a facility, in a hospital. One of the injuries that was awful for people is when they got an injury that separated the clavicle from the muscle. It was something that couldn't be repaired by surgery, and basically they could never reach their arm up above their head again. And it was absolutely torturous. I taught yoga for senior citizens, and I found a woman who, we even brought her to the physical therapist, and they just weren't able to help her because that muscle had been separated from the clavicle. And I'm not sure which muscle group, but I mean, that makes such perfect sense, because there's also, I don't know the anatomical word as well, but there's some sort of fascia that's like a large fascia that, and there's cords in your neck. So I know that there's more to the anatomy, but it's interesting that you said that it would incapacitate someone, particularly in their arm region, if they were punctured on the neck.
And also about the defensive wounds, Kiki, many people think that these individuals, and I don't know whether they were or not, okay? But many people's perceptions were that they were standing up, fighting, or, shielding themselves. I would believe that if this individual that did this, he would incapacitate them to the point where they would not be on their feet. So the defensive wounds could have been this. They could have been in their sleep, because even if you're asleep and you're being assaulted like that, your body kicks in natural responses. So, I don't want to use the belief system that individuals have that the defensive wounds were due to them standing up, going toe to toe with whoever did this. More likely than not, did not happen. They were probably on the floor, shielding themselves from whatever was coming, or they were in the bed, pushing off like this, or backing themselves up. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 12, while I have the floor, I wanted to ask you a question that I had starred. Oh, let me get my starred questions up. Let's see. So CB says, I thought this was an incredible question. Thank you for asking it, CB. I never would have thought of this. CB says, can they predict, let me display that. Can they predict the weight and height of the predator by examining the stab wounds?
That's a great question. I would say that it'd be possible. I mean, I have a couple of videos that show K-bars going through pork loin and leather and stuff like that, and the guy's not very big. I would say that depending on the sharp knife would determine all the gun. I mean, it takes a very big to, like Nina was saying, as long as it's not hitting bone or anything like that, and it's just a straight shot through the skin and the muscle, I believe that it takes a lot of effort to stab somebody. I mean, as we've heard, there were tear, puncture wounds. So if you don't understand what that means, if you're being stabbed and then they turn it and that is a tear. Well, that is how those are created. So you stab, turn, or rip out. Many people think that when somebody's stabbing, they're doing the ice pick motion. In that article that I read stated that probably 20% of all knife attacks are done in an ice pick motion. Most of them are done with a straight hand, stab movement. I'm sorry.
Well, I do know that, like, if they are doing like the ice pick motion, that what they'll do is they'll do like the strings, to depict how high up the hand was. You know what I'm saying? And that will
Mhm.
give them an idea of how tall they are by how high up, and then the uh, span of their arm. Like coming out and stuff like that, and I mean, that sounds so insensitive because I know, we're talking about some beautiful souls, but, I know that, the what is it, trajectory and stuff like that, that it'll, show like height and stuff like that. I don't know if it would have a possibility of telling weight, but, you could probably get pretty close by the height.
Right. Also, in that article, and I'm not trying to monopolize the panel, but I just want to say this, and then I'll let you have it back. But they said that you always have a free hand. So determining on whether the perpetrator was left-handed or right-handed, if he was right-handed, then the free hand is always the left hand. And most stabbings occur within 3 feet because of the proximity of how intimate the crime is.
Right.
So you're grabbing, holding, pulling, or you're maneuvering the individual however you want them to go. So, if the individual had the sheath in the left hand, that could point out why the sheath was in the bed. I mean, I'm not trying to get into another topic, but that could make the sense, but you just never really know. I mean, I'm just
Right.
speculating here.
Yeah, the sheath. Yeah, that's a whole different subject there.
And then I got a few more starred questions here I just want to bring up. So just PKC kind of added to what we were saying to both of you, what you were saying before when we come to the original question, just so everyone knows, was can we predict the weight and height of the predator by examining the stabbed? And then there was another question here, I just adding to it saying maybe height. Weight, I think, would depend more on arm and hand strength. So that's another way of putting it. I think that maybe, and you could answer this question for me, 12. I mean, not without any definitive, I think we might be able to tell if this was a female or a male by how aggressive the stab wounds are, because males have a larger broader shoulder length, they have larger lungs, larger hearts, they have more muscle mass. I think you might be able to distinguish between what a man could do and a woman could do. um, but I don't. That's just making a profile, or kind of what maybe you could surmise from the wounds. That's what I'm thinking by my non-professional.
Oh, okay. That
Anyway,
makes sense.
um, and then this one says, can they tell the splatter like on Dexter? Can they tell by the splatter like on Dexter?
Of Dexter. I love that show.
See,
Nina,
I
you
think the
want to answer
splatter.
that?
I think the splatter would play a big thing in that because based on how far your arm reach is and stuff like that is going to determine the splatter because
Yeah. Sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut. Well, what I was gonna say is I have seen, and this is only on television, so I don't know if this is a real thing with blood spatter forensics, but I've seen it multiple times on criminal shows where the spatter, the absence of splatter on the wall behind the victim can sometimes say something about the perpetrator. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like if you were to and I know what you just said, 12, about how a wound doesn't appear the way that we think. The way that a person bleeds out is not like, it's more of, and again, trigger warning, we're not trying to say, but it's more of like trickle out rather than, but with the splatter, I would imagine that there's some sort of pattern that would be absent behind the silhouette of the person. I'm just going to mute myself before I put my foot in my mouth, but what do you think of that?
Well, if like I was describing, the stab, turn, and yanking out, obviously there's going to be splatter behind me, or there's going to be splatter on the floor if I pull the knife down. Uh, and it can always tell how the blood lands on the floor, on the wall, whether it's away from or towards. It's interesting. All the forensic part of this is interesting, and I'm sure that whoever was investigating this, if they've had, any time investigating blood, or they knew what they were doing. But like what I was gonna say is on the 2 videos that I played on my channel, most of the blood splatter was on the person that was doing the stabbing.
Right.
Most of it was in the facial area and in the chest area, and definitely on the arm they were using because they're so close to it. So,
Right.
I mean, I've never seen anybody stabbed, knock on wood. I've never seen a live stabbing. I've never, I'm not much of a hunter. I use guns, so I don't really, I can't speak from personal experience as far as something being stabbed and what it would look like. All I know based on what I've seen and read, so I'm no expert. I'm just trying to call it the best I can.
How do you lose the
What do you
host?
do what?
How do you lose the host?
Maybe she pushed the wrong button. Maybe she I've
Well,
done
I
that too
can,
on I've done that too on my show. Like you mean to push a button and you push the wrong one, you take yourself out, you take some guest out of the room. I mean, it's crazy.
unfortunately, I do have personal experience. So,
Okay.
and I can tell you that it, like you said, it is not anything like, oh, it's just going to look like a cut. You know what I'm saying? Or, I mean, it's not, I mean, it's like, it's ugly. It's ugly. It doesn't just look like a straight edge went in there.
Right,
And
right.
I mean, and the thing about it is, I can tell you just, from my leg, that the muscles and everything, like you said, the strength that it takes, you know, I mean, and that's the thing about it. That's the reason I don't think a female could have done it. Not saying females aren't strong or anything, that we're weak or anything, but I don't think that, not for people. I mean, now she might could have done one of the girls or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But could a female have done it? No, I don't think 4 females could have done it. We not strapped. We can't. We could pull something like that off. You know.
Well, let me question, Nina. Hold on, I think I lost my train of thought. Um when it comes to the stabbing, we're talking about how to incapacitate somebody first. If
Right.
somebody's not fighting back, or let's say they used a stun gun, and little stun gun that have enough juice to knock you out, as you're stabbing somebody, they're not really fighting, so their organs aren't pumping as much blood because they're trying to recharge and trying to do all this. So as you're stabbing, I do agree with that. You know, it's a bloody scene and it's going everywhere and things of that nature, which is that's the killer's prerogative. That's their enjoyment, a moment of control that
Right.
they're getting out of. That's the reason they're doing it, is that moment. They don't want the fight, want the resistance, because they've already felt, and this goes with the profiling. They've always felt that the level of put or shame or outcast or whatever they've been dealing with, all of a sudden I'm making it equal right now. My ego is, it's making it equal. I'm in control. I'm the one that's overpowering. You're over here most of the time and I'm here. This is how I view it. Well, all of a sudden I've done this. I'm here and you're here.
Right.
So that is the level of, most people, they believe, just like in an essay crime, they believe that it's all about actual pleasure, and it's not. And that's another thing that was discussed about this crime. They say there's no SA, but we don't really know that's true or not. Had a fascination with one of the females or even the male. We don't know if he's straight or other. He could have had a fascination with one of the people, and the sexual gratification was the act of overpowering. And one
Right.
more thing I'm going to say is Maddie was small, so she would, the knife wouldn't have took anything to, if anything, I hate to be this graphic, but if anything, that knife probably went all the way through. Kaylee was a little bigger boned, she was a little bigger. Same thing. Xana was little bitty. Same thing, Maddie. Ethan,
Right.
he would have been, he was not a big guy. He looked like he was slender. So the fact that people say it would have taken a lot of energy to incapacitate these individuals, I don't believe so. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Well, see, I believe Xana was first.
Okay.
So, and I mean, and that's, just the way, I don't know. It's just, but anyway, the thing about it is, I think that you're right about, it's the act of, he would have wanted to, he, they, them, whoever. If it's a one perk, I think that he went in there with one mission, one target. And I think everything went to hell in a handbasket. And then it turned into a frenzy. And I think that's where it went into the just unalive and get out. So, and the thing about it is, with the Xana thing, it totally explains one of the comments that Steve made, is they didn't have to go upstairs because what they wanted was on the second floor. That wasn't his statement. That was my statement.
Well, I heard that. I've heard that also.
Right. But I mean,
yeah.
I was just making sure when I said what he wanted was on the second floor, I didn't want anybody to think Steve said that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I believe that as a community, we've all wanted the motive. We've all wanted to know why. And, based on researching and doing weekly papers and all this stuff, the motive sometimes is just as simple as they wanted to. It was opportunity. The opportunity presented itself. It's showtime.
Right.
I might not ever get this opportunity again. And sometimes, it's not about, okay, how many people are in the house. Because when your level of control kicks in, your
Exactly.
adrenaline kicks in, it don't matter if there would have been 20 people in that house. If you wanted to go after 4 and kill 4, you were going to get 4. It doesn't matter
Exactly.
what the other 16 were doing, because your motivation is that intense, because you want to be in so much control that you're gonna do what you need to do. And if anybody steps in your way, that's just a bonus. That's not collateral damage. That's a bonus in your eyes, especially of a killer, you know? So I think a lot of times people give these killers more props than they need to when they say, well, they planned it out. I'm sure he planned it out. I'm sure he planned out every move. But how many times have you planned to go out of town and it never went the same way that you thought it would go?
Right.
What did you do? You improvised, right? And I'm not trying to compare a murder to a road trip, but you know what? Planning is planning. You say, well, I'm going to stop here for 30 minutes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I got 5 seconds to do this. I go to the bathroom. I got 30 minutes to do this. Well, what happens? You have a flat tire. Your battery won't start. You know, all these unknown variables happen.
Right.
And then your thinking says, okay, I don't need to think anymore. I just need to go on natural instinct.
Right.
You know, who knows if serial killers actually practice their killings in their rooms, you know? I'm sure they do. I'm sure they practice. It's kind of like Elliot Rodger. Do you know who that was?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've studied that extensively.
I don't know
Okay,
who
so
that is.
you're gonna know what I'm talking about here. In his manifesto, he
Mm-hmm.
practiced on his mattress. He
Yep.
practiced on pillows. He
Yep.
practiced. So to say that, you know, these individuals don't know what they're doing and it's just a thrill crime, well, some of them are, but not all of them. The ones that are
Right.
calculated, they've been doing that for a long time. So Elliot knew what he was doing. You know, he used a knife and a gun. So he knew what he was doing. He was very proficient with both instruments. And it was about, I'm going to say one more thing. Think of it like this. Let's say you have an affliction. Maybe it's mental, maybe it's physical. You get picked on for it. You get beat up for it. You get bullied for it. So you say, okay, well, I'm tired of getting bullied for it. I'm tired of getting picked on. So I'm going to change it so that I can be equal. Well, you change it, you lose weight, you gain weight, you become athletic, whatever. And then the picking still happens and you're still not equal with other people because they don't view you as an equal. They don't like you for whatever reason.
Right.
So at one particular point you say, well, you know what? I'm going to shut my emotions down so I don't have to feel this. And then I'm going to go and train myself to not feel these feelings anymore. I'm going to go numb. So therefore, whenever you're going through that process, you don't feel pain. You
Right.
disassociate. You
Yep.
disassociate during those sessions. You blink out. And whenever you tell yourself, okay, any opportunity that I have to overpower somebody, I'm going to show them that I'm the one. I'm the one in the room that they need to worry about. So think of all the times that those serial killers that you heard of. Elliot Rodger. Let's talk about him because I did some research on him as well. What did he do? He bought some clothes. He had the fancy sunglasses, right? He'd get the haircut styled, do all this. He had the BMW. He had all this stuff. Why won't girls have sex with me? Why won't they talk to me? Why won't they do this? Why won't they do that? He was always looking to be the one. And in that quest, he ended up killing people because he thought that that was the only way that he could ever get the retribution, as he said it, of his own discord. Does that make sense at all? I know I went long-winded there, Kiki, I just, but does that make sense at all?
Absolutely, but I have a couple. I have two questions. The first one I have, I'll give the two questions, and I'll turn it back over to you. The first one is, who is Elliot Rogers? And the
Nina, you
second,
want to answer that one?
Elliot Rogers was considered. I don't know if everybody knows what an incel is. It's voluntary celibate, and pretty much I'll put it to you this way: they hate women. I mean, they just absolutely. They pretty much just hate everybody. They have like their chats and stuff. They have like their own language. That it's like the red pill, the blue pill, the black pill, And the thing about it is what people don't realize about the incel community is it is actually a terrorist. I mean, I mean, they are monitored because they are so dangerous. I mean, some of the most violent acts have happened from incels, and that's the reason with the Idaho 4 incel never even, I never even gave incel a thought. But I mean, an incel, the girls won't have sex with them. They won't give them the time of day. Poor little Elliot Rogers, I think he was 22, 12, 20. He was about 22. Honey, he couldn't even get a girl to look his way. I mean, and I'm talking this guy was wealthy. He wore the fancy sunglasses, everything. But he was so entitled that he bought a lottery ticket and cried for 2 weeks because he was supposed to win that money. He deserved it more than everybody else,
Yeah.
And he got so mad that he was going to make everybody pay for the way he had been treated his whole 22 years. And he went in with a knife and a gun. And did he kill 6, Gage?
He killed his
Okay,
two
yeah,
roommates. His two roommates, he
right.
stabbed them.
Yep.
And then he went with the guns and killed, or he shot one female, one guy in the coffee shop. He ran over the other guy. So that's 3, 4. He shot 4 people.
Right.
Killed
So
2.
then the 2 roommates
3.
would be 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the problem. And then he shot himself.
Yeah.
Now
He
here's
shot
the
himself.
problem with that is he was like, I mean, the incel community like worshipped him. So
Yeah.
after he unalived himself, they were doing the same thing to honor him. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a guy in Canada, I think it was, that he did like double digits, to honor Elliot Rogers, And Elliot Rogers, y'all, his manifesto is 139 pages, Gage.
Yes. It's basically a life story.
139 page. Because see, I had actually wondered when they talked about what they got from Koberger, where it said the underlining on page 118. I went and read page 118 of Elliot Rogers' manifesto because I thought, ooh, I wonder, but then they said book, and I was like, well, a manifesto is not a book,
Right.
And so that the only thing that I found, because see, the research that I've done has been like what I think the book is and what it says, and I came up with that. What I think the picture is, and I came up with that, and trying to put it together. And again, I will say 400 times, I am in no kind of way saying that Koberger is guilty. I want to try to understand if one person did it, what would make that person snap to do something like that. And so that's where my research went, was basing it on Koberger. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so I
Right.
went into Sigmund Freud, I went into Darwinism, I went into him being a libertarian, a vegan, and put all of those in my research and pulled from what his beliefs were.
Right. Because you can get a profile on anyone.
Right.
What they do is they basically, I was watching watching some psychologists the other day and reading some stuff, obviously. And most people, their pattern of lifestyle matches certain qualifications of determined behavior and thoughts.
Right.
All of us, no matter how unique we think we are, we all have a tendency to match a certain lifestyle, our beliefs, our thoughts. That's why the patterns in life of individuals that commit crime, that's why a lot of times they can say, okay, we're looking for this type of individual, this type of mental capacity, this type of affliction, this, that, and the other. Are they always right? No. But most of the time they are, they're right on point. Like in
Right.
the beginning of, I don't want to just talk about the Idaho 4 case, but in the beginning of that case, they were saying chances are it was going to be a college student. And what did
Right.
it turn out to be? Who's in custody? Whether he's innocent or whether he's guilty, I'm not leaning one way or the other. I'm not going to
Exactly.
say that. But, and they said, okay, well, he's a white male, obviously. He's within the age of this or within the age range of this and this. And he has these particular traits based on the stabbings.
Right.
And that's what I think is interesting is you can tell based on the crime scene what type of individual you're dealing with. And many don't
Exactly.
believe in these theories. They don't believe in psychology. They don't believe in nature versus nurture, all this stuff that we're talking about. They don't believe in it. But it's going to tell you a lot more than just trying to guess, who did it or what happened.
Right.
They don't believe that, if you grow up in a bad home or you have issues with your mom, so every female that you encounter in your life, you want to destroy. There's a reason for that.
Exactly.
Does it
And
always happen that way? No. But there's more opportunity for that to happen than not. Go ahead,
right.
Nina. I'm sorry.
Oh no. I mean, Kiki, I don't we're at that 1 hour mark, so I didn't know how you want to play this, Miss Kiki.
Well, I definitely want to first let you get your thought out before we even talk about that. Go ahead with what you were saying, and then I'll talk about that.
Okay. Well, see, the thing about it is like, oh well, I lost my thought.
That's okay. I have something I really wanted to share while you guys were talking. So one of the statements that 12 made, he said, you were talking about somebody getting bullied or somebody being picked on for their shortcomings and that pain being continuous and then eventually the person deciding they're going to push that pain down. And that being that numbness, that disconnect, and then possibly resulting in not a sociopathic or a sociopathic, some sort of sociopathic disorder. The reason I'm bringing that up is because oftentimes I've studied a few different types of therapy with I do sort of like a type of therapy on my YouTube channel, or I used to, and I've worked with certain types of therapy that work where you move the pattern, your eye pattern. It's called EDMR therapy. And one of the things they've come to notice is that people have a numbness response to trauma. Now, trauma is defined a lot of different ways. So, simply having an event that keeps popping it, sometimes we have events that pop into our head from childhood that we don't even think make a difference. But in order for us to cope with the sensory overload or the inability to process that moment, our brains have a process for us to cope with them, which is creating a numbness and disconnect. And that numbness will keep going on until you go back and address the original issue. Even if it makes no difference to you now as an adult, your mind set that response off at that one thought pattern. And if so, people who have a lot of numbness and disconnect, it can often be a trauma response. And I know that was a long way of saying that, but I just kind of wanted to preface it with, what I knew from experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Kiki. I agree with you.
Yeah. Nita, did you think of your thought while I was blabbing?
Well, I mean, that's the thing about it is like, I mean, I mean, you've seen the stuff that I've sent you and what I've come up with that could send somebody over the top, and the thing about it is, what I found using Koberger as like a prototype. Let's do it that way, and going into what he studied and everything. The visual snow, he gets it under control after he beats, he has the skin reduction surgery. He goes to the hospital for eating disorder. He beats addiction. So all this, everything he overcome and everything. And I mean, none of that is, all of that takes strength and all of that takes discipline, And so the thing about it is when he gets it under control, everything under control is like his visual snow takes care of itself too, you know. And so I took into consideration the visual snow, and what I found was that when the visual snow is triggered, you get the ringing in the ears. And when you get that ringing in your ears, it causes the irritability and stuff like that. And, then you have trouble concentrating. You get brain fog, depersonalization, impaired social function. Foods can cause it, stress can cause it, but number one is insomnia. So, look, y'all, I tell anybody because I'm not ashamed of my past. I've got 16 years every day doing that, hype you up. Koberger is, you won't never convince me of it. You got to consider that one is a social drug, and the one he did, that's pretty much a loner drug. You know what I'm saying? You don't party with H. Now the other one, that's a party drug, and I don't see Koberger. He, I know what we look like. I looked like it for 16 years. And he had nothing that would ever tell me he was doing any kind of drugs at all. At all. Not even an Adderall. I mean, and so the insomnia could go back to the visual snow. And y'all, I mean, I hate to say it because I usually don't say anything without receipts, but in my opinion, I don't think Koberger. I mean, if you will look at the pictures that I posted on my videos about Xana, Ashley, and his two sisters, y'all, it is uncanny. Every one of them look just alike. Every one of them. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, was he bullied by his sisters? Was he, I mean, did he have a bad childhood, that trauma of that bad childhood from his sisters, and then he really is smitten with Ashley, and do you know who Ashley is, Gage? Okay. Well,
Are we talking? I'm sorry. Are we talking about? Are we talking? Who are we talking about again? I just want to be careful with names. If we're talking.
Okay. Well, Ashley, she was.
Can you hear us, Nina? I don't.
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought you said something. I'm sorry.
Oh,
okay,
no.
So we will say AF then. AF was a beautiful girl that she accepted him, and he was really tight with, and I'll never say that they were boyfriend and girlfriend because I don't have a certificate proving that, but I do believe that he really cared for her. Unfortunately, she didn't like men. So, in the mindset that Koberger could have with Darwinism, libertarian, Sigmund Freud, stuff like that, with that kind of mindset, I'm sure he probably did not take that very well, and, but they did H together. Okay. And so that, I guess, that was probably their bonding moment. And I think I saw AR come in. So AR, I hope I do this justice because AR has talked to her family and everything. So, he has some personal input. So I hope I do this justice. In 2018, she unfortunately lost her battle to age. And what was amazing was she lost her battle on Lindsay Lane. Xana, Linda Lane, AF, Lindsay Lane. And I'm telling you, I don't know if you've got any of the pictures, Kiki. I mean, it's uncanny, is it not, Kiki? How much they look alike?
I do remember seeing a picture of the girl back in the day. I didn't put two and two together to compare her to Xana, but I have heard that from actually Daniel mentioned that to me when we were chatting backstage after the show last night. He was wondering if I had heard those reports too. So you're not the only one who has said
Oh,
this.
that makes me feel good because I sent him that because we had talked about it.
Well, I just wanted you to know other people had brought that up to me too, but I know nothing of, I haven't actually taken a good look to see for myself, but
Well, one of the things about Koberger was he got clean in 2018 and he actually tried to get her to get clean with him. And I don't know, with trying to help somebody in addiction and then they die from it, that causes like so much inside you because then it's, oh, if I could have just got him one more day, if I could have just got him there, then you have that guilt inside you that you could have saved him. So you've got the girl that accepts him and he really cares about, but she likes girls, now has been lost her battle to H on Lindsay Lane. So we'll go with that right now. So, questions?
I mean, well, here's the thing.
I think that when we get into profiling, we could honestly do an entire show on it because there is so much to it. And if what you're saying is true, I think it warrants literally an entire live stream because what we could do is we could easily bring up some photos for the folks to look and see, is there a good comparison between these two people? Let's look at the spelling of that lane. Let's bring the receipts and show where it was said. I like that. I like that idea. I would actually like Nina to invite you back to my live stream in the future to talk about this. And you too, 12, because you really, we've had the conversation about criminal profiling, and I have several different things that we could show. And this actually brings me to something that 12 and I were talking about before you came on, Nina, before we came on to the folks. We were listening to a little blurb from a podcast. 12, do you still have that podcast up I sent you? Maybe you could share that with the folks. Nina, oh, actually, I have it here. I forgot we had it backstage. I'm going to put through a podcast. We're going to listen. Let's do 3 minutes. And this is a sampling. This is one of BK's friends. And he just goes into his feelings of BK's personality before he graduated high school. So he was not friends with him back in the day. This is prior to college. I'm going to add this to this. Oops. Hold on, add it to the stage. And yeah, so I think we'll do like 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe pause it after 3 if that's okay, 12, and we'll yeah. Anyway, here you go.
Okay, you ready?
ready to go. Yep. Let's
Okay,
mute it.
here we go.
Why he thinks he did it, but his really good friend of him thinks he did it. So again, I don't know the kind of person he was after high school and in college. So all I can talk on is how he was in high school, grade school, his mother, and and kind of like what he liked to do in high school, because that's what I remember. I don't, anything after that, all the drugs and stuff like that, that all happened after I was gone.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
Now,
we
do you know if that dog being skinned near the crime scene has anything to do with
they say no.
That's scary.
It's so, yeah. I mean, I'm with you. That is terrifying to think. Like, how could it not?
You have another problem then.
Right. So you have two killers running around?
Yeah, right.
Because nobody's
Jesus.
skinning a dog and then just chilling at the house. Like, they clearly have something wrong with them.
Yeah, and like I wouldn't put it past a murderer for skinning a dog, but the fact that he was a vegan, and like a lot of people would, even murderers that are interviewed say like, they like animals, but they could kill people, which is just sick. But I couldn't see a vegan skinning a dog.
Visit MODO.US for the best free play social casino experience wherever you are. Modo offers a huge selection of Vegas-style games with free spins, exciting promotions, and always generous jackpots. You can waste your time with
May I say something?
Sorry, can you hear me? Sorry, I was muted, you guys. I was reading you this comment. It says, I doubt a vegan, animal person, and germ freak would be okay with blood on him. Same guy who wears gloves to take trash out. So anyway, and yes, Nina, please take the floor.
Miss Anonymous, I in no way would ever try to think that I would know what any person was ever thinking. So if I said it like I thought I knew, like when I made the statement that, if you can't save somebody and they end up dying from their addiction, she put in the chat, that we don't know how he was feeling. No, I don't, but I know I'm an addict. I'm a recovering addict. So speaking from my experience and people I've been around, that's what I have observed. So if I said that I was trying to know what he was feeling, I no kind of way was meaning that.
Oh, well, thank you for clearing that up. And let's just, so the folks know what we're talking about. Miss Anonymous 617 said, we don't know how he feels. We don't know as a former addict and substance abuse counselor. And that is a good point. It's sometimes hard. We have to navigating how we use terminology, because sometimes when we say we think we're prefacing it by saying allegedly or speculating. So sorry for it was a terminology mix up, and you're 100% right. We don't know, and we're just speculating. And somebody says that was Willie. I don't know if it was Willie, but anyway, that podcast was the original one that came out. There's a lot in that podcast. I wasn't planning on breaking it down tonight, so just kind of that blurb I wanted to show you guys. Hey, I had a couple more starred comments I wanted to read you guys, if you don't mind, real quick. Let's see. I'm gonna go up to this. So hold on.
I just ate that cookie, so if I start bouncing around, y'all know why.
Well, thank you for the forewarning, my friend. All right. I had a couple good ones here. All right. Okay, here's one I wanted to address. So are you guys going to talk about the ladder and if it has been of evidentiary value? I think what we can do is we'll end but with a little blurb on the ladder. I'm going to read these last starred comments, and then we will end with a little bit on the ladder, because when it comes to this profiling, because BK is always innocent until proven guilty, we certainly want to make sure we have a nice prepared show for you when we talk about the profiling, because we don't want to make speculations. We're going to present it to you in a certain way. So I'm just going to read a few of these comments, then we're going to get into the ladder. The next one was, I thought SG trying to say it was not a burglary didn't go upstairs for that, just in my opinion. And what 12 just said is, I think BK was put on we already read that, was meds and suppressed his emotions that his mind controlled. It was talking about. And the one thing I will say that I've always been super impressed about when we talk about BK's past is somebody who's actually cleaned up like that and gone back to college and gotten a degree. it's only a small percentage of the population. So there is something very exceptional about somebody who can do that. Yeah, sorry to take.
Oh, I was raising my hand because I've cleaned up and done the same thing. I mean, I'm a recovering addict myself. 19 years. So
Yay,
it
congratulations.
happened. Yeah,
Wow.
I've shared my story as well. So
I've
yeah,
got
it
12.
happened. Good job. Great job. And I'm also an addictions counselor myself. So some of the stuff that you're saying is, it's right on point. It's not necessarily about the feeling, it's about the trauma effect, kind of like what Kiki said, that for a lot of different people, trauma triggers a lot of different internal battles and reenactment that they've tried to stuff with the chemicals for so many years. So, as you were saying, he could have stumbled upon some individuals along the way up to that point that played on that reenactment of whatever trauma or pain. And it could have just been the perfect storm. And I don't say that in the event that I'm trying to be callous, but sometimes everything aligns and the trauma ignites the whole situation, and you just have a very dark outcome sometimes. It's kind of like a kid who does negative things wanting attention. He doesn't care whether it's negative attention. It's still attention. You're still paying attention to him, even though it's a negative outcome. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That middle child will always, they don't care if it's negative attention. They're going to get their part of the attention.
Yes.
But as far as like, Kiki was like said a small percentage, it's actually 2%.
Oh my God, I didn't realize it was only 2% of the
I
population.
mean, now there's a whole lot that get clean. I'm talking only
Yeah.
2% really beat it. But the thing
Yeah,
about it,
1 in 10 after the first year will be clean and sober, crime free, all that. So 1 out of 10 people.
right. And the thing about it is, if you don't deal with the trauma inside you, it doesn't matter anyway, because, the substance is not the issue. It's what's
No.
inside us that's the issue.
Yeah.
So
That's incredible because it's listening to two people who are part of that 2% telling you it's not about beating the physical addiction. It's about beating what caused it in the first place. I just want to say I'm honored to have both of you on my panel to hear that story. It's because I know for a fact when you repeat that out loud to an audience of people, there are people who need to hear that. And it's just so special that you guys were willing to be open enough to share that it publicly with an audience, and you're making a difference in this world every time you tell people. So just thank you. And
well, I mean,
Thank you.
I'll never be ashamed of my past, and I tell my story, and then y'all know that I lost my son to IV meth, and I tell his story. So
you have our
My
deepest
condolences.
no, it's a blessing that I get to be his voice.
It's through pain sometimes that we see the sunlight on the other end of the trauma.
Pain to purpose to passion.
Yes.
Well, I think we had talked about a moment ago that maybe we would pivot and talk about the ladders. I think we're going to just stick on this subject. Why don't we give our audience another 10 minutes of time answering questions, talking about substance abuse? I mean, this conversations got real heavy, and I just don't feel that it's appropriate for us to pivot and talk into something just like pictures of evidence. It's something we can do another time. So let's just give a moment of support and questions, and it's about we'll give it 10 more minutes. All right. And I'll start displaying some comments from the chat, and you guys can share anything else you want to do, encouraging words or anything you want to talk about as far as criminal profiling and the use of substances.
I'll start right quick. That's one of the reasons I even got interested in this case is when I found out that the alleged perpetrator was a past addict. And that got me going because I wanted to see what the pattern was. In my mind, I said, I want to see what his pattern was, how his upbringing was, how, I went into therapy mode. I went into therapist mode because I wanted to get into his brain. And unfortunately, there's just not enough. I mean, there's people's perceptions of who he was, their recollections of what happened, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'd love to be able to sit right next to Brian and ask him those questions. I'd love to be able to ask him about his addiction, about his trauma, about his understanding about life growing up. I know we have the writings that he's presented, but that only tells a minuscule of his success versus failures in his mind. What he perceives success is not always success to us. His success could be as simple as, today I didn't use. Today I didn't think about it. Today I was able to, not Jones or anything like that. Because one thing that people don't understand who've never been on heroin, I've never been on heroin, but I worked in a detox where I worked with heroin addicts, opiate addicts, alcoholics, and the detox is tremendous. So in my mind, I'm thinking, if he was addicted to heroin, how did he afford it? How did he supply his habit? Where did he, whenever he wasn't able to get it, where did he detox? How many times did he go to rehab to detox? These types of questions. How tremendous did those detoxes take effect on his mental capacity to incorporate reality versus fiction and fantasy? Did he, because as an addict, you can fit in because you look at other people, how they interact with society. So you learn to emulate their motion, their behaviors, their mannerism. But inside, you could still not have a clue how to live life on life terms. So,
Right.
so how did he go through life? Did we see the real Brian, or was this the Brian that he was trying to present to the world so that they didn't focus on his addiction as much? Because once people focus on your addiction, it's like a badge that you can never shed. That's all you'll ever be to those people. I have people in my past. They still ask me, are you clean? Have you used? Are you drinking? Have you drank? And this is after all these years, all the things that I've accomplished. And that's what they remember about me. They remember that I broke their heart. They remember that I stole their trust. They remember this and that and the other. But they don't focus on the positive. So did he deal with that?
Exactly.
When he started to get clean, was he still battling other people's perception? Well, you stole your sister's phone once. How are we supposed to trust that you're going to do the right thing? Is that one of the reasons he went out to WSU? Was that his length of distance to finally outrun his past? Does that make sense, Nina?
Yeah. I mean, that was, some of the stuff that I found. I think he went to rehab twice. He was so dedicated to the rehab that he talks about in his Tappa Talk how he would not take anything like a Xanax, anything like that. So he refused anything that could interfere with his addiction. I mean, with his recovery. That's how strong he felt about it, And so, I mean, if you really think about, I mean, I have a list of everything he overcome, and that it's like I said, I mean, he was rebuilding his relationship with his father, because, at one time, in his younger, they had a physical altercation, and so then after the telephone deal from his sister, the dad is the one that turned him in. So that puts that big wedge between him and his dad. And I believe, in my opinion, the 2,500-mile trip that was planned ahead of time was to spend that time with his dad, because they were rebuilding, And I mean, he was a teenager addicted to H. Now, here's the thing about it with addiction. I don't know very many teenagers that start out with H.
No.
I don't know many adults that start out with H. And he moved. Okay, when he got kicked, he got kicked out of the program in high school. And when he got kicked out of the program, he never went back to high school physically. And he moved to Effort, Pennsylvania. And so that's where he got with, oh my gosh, the guy's name is totally, I'm missing it. But it was the guy
Names. Let's leave out names anyway.
Okay, he got with the guy and the girl that I just mentioned. And that's where he stayed. And I guess they all figured out a way to take care of it, And so he was in high school. I mean, this is a high school boy that is in Effort, Pennsylvania. And I researched Effort, Pennsylvania. Their ODs are, oh my gosh, the statistics are just through the roof, And so I think that it was the only way he could numb everything inside him. And if I'm not mistaken, it was like, let's see, I know I've got the year, but it was like 2011 to 2017. So that's a long time, And so to go back to go online and get your GED, and then go and get your master's, your PhD, your bachelor's. I mean, everything that he did, it was like once he set his mind to it, he started jogging, he started doing kickboxing, he took care of his diet. That's not weak stuff. You have to have some strong will to do everything that he did.
But you also know that being a former addict, you get fixated on other addictions, so to speak.
That's where I was going.
The veganism become another source of perfectionism.
Exactly. Yeah, because now it's worse.
Right. The gloves on the hand, the surgical gloves, all that.
Yeah.
It's a form of discipline. And I'm not saying he's guilty or he's not. He's the one that's accused at this point, and that's what I'm going to leave it as. But, those behaviors stem from the addiction. I always told people, you know what, if I like something, I'll do it once. If I love it, I'll burn it till the wheels fall off.
There you go.
It's like, so it could be anything. It could be sports. It could be food. It could be taking risky behaviors. It could be, one thing that I would be interested in finding out is voyeurism. And I did a stream on this on my channel. Kiki, I hope that's okay to plug my channel on here. But voyeurism, it's the most basic starting of serial killers. Voyeurism, stalking at an early age.
Yep.
So I'm interested to know if he had any kind of voyeuristic tendencies, since they don't really tell you whether he had female relationships or not. Was he going around the neighborhood watching people? Was he peeping in girls' rooms that he was infatuated with? Because another thing an addict displays is immediate gratification. So if somebody shows any interest in an addict, and I'm just speaking for myself, okay? So don't come at me. But, early on, if somebody displayed any kind of niceness, any kind of boy, I was there trying to get that every second of the day because it was like a high. So that took me to the time when he was kicked out, supposedly, of that bar slash restaurant because he was there acting creepy with the waitresses and the wait staff. What if one of them came across as being nice and he became fixated, or that was his new drug of choice? Well, I got to see Sally because she is just into me and all she's doing is her job. But in his twisted mind, oh my God, finally
Right.
somebody that understands me, somebody that talks to me, somebody that gives me the emotional dopamine release. I don't have to walk around in this fog all day long anymore. I don't
Right.
have to walk around confused and angry and pissed off and feeling like I don't belong. Sally gets me, just like Ashley got him. You get
Exactly.
what I'm saying? And that's all I'll say on that. Okay.
And Kiki, I sent you some pictures on Discord. But the thing about it too is I went through and I've got like 10 different things of, I guess you could call them offenses, you know? And the thing about it is like, of course, the students talk about how he felt about the LGBTQ. Oh,
Is this what you're talking about?
well, those are good. Those are good. But I had sent you something else, and see that she just showed. That is okay. The ego. You've got the three. Sigmund Freud thought that you were built up of the ID, the ego, and the superego. And if you'll notice, one says morality, one says reality, and one says instinct.
Okay, hold on. Let me get that one. Hold on.
Okay, there's a healthy one.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me go back up. All right. So right here, healthy psyche.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you'll notice, the ego says, okay, guys, I'm in charge. Anything you want goes through me. And they're just like, okay, because they're balanced, everybody's happy, nobody's trying to take control or anything like that. You see what I'm saying? So then what do you have? The neurotic? Or just, I guess we can just go to the next one.
Okay. Hold on. So we're going to now go to
I'm
neurotic
not-
psyche. Is that
Yeah.
right? Neurotic psyche. Okay.
Okay, now he says, listen up, I'm in charge, and you are not, boy, my glasses are bad. You are not here to enjoy yourselves. Get ready for, take it up there. Well, anyway, whimper, no fun. So now they're starting to like, no, you're not in charge, So it's like you've got that, like your ID is your person, and then one's the angel and one's the devil on your shoulder, I guess is the way I look at it, And so then when you get into the psychotic, the ID takes over. Now, the bad thing about the ID taking over where it says instincts, that's that instant gratification. The want takes over the need. And you lose your, that self-control, And so, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know how far she wants to go into that because I could go on
basically
further.
what you've outlined, Nina, is a disease concept of addiction. That's what you've basically outlined here.
And so,
The three
that's the
basic
reason,
needs, yeah.
right? That's the reason when you said that that's the biggest thing about an addict is that instant gratification. And see, one thing that I want everybody to know about addicts, we are smart. We can scheme, connive, manipulate, justify, rationalize. I will tell anybody, I can justify and rationalize a peanut butter and jelly sandwich not having jelly on it. And you will still call it a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And so, I mean, that's
use
the
I
thing.
statements, ma'am. Use I statements.
Oh, But I mean, that's the thing about it is, because we're going to figure out a way to get what we need. And so to do that, you have to, I had to manipulate and connive and do all that good stuff.
Yeah. Nina, you got to come and hang out with me on my panel as well. I enjoy talking to you.
I honestly, hearing the two of you talk, it's amazing to hear you go, because where you can pick off where the other one leaves off and you can fill in those blanks, and you both have a different type of energy, you know, male, female. So it really touches a lot of people to hear both of you talking. And I can tell that by the comments, because people are being extremely open about their past experiences, and that doesn't always happen. And here, let me take this banner off the front of us so that we can see ourselves here. And I think that this has been a wonderful live stream. I've enjoyed having the two of you on tonight. Let me turn my camera on so you guys can see me. Hold on. I've enjoyed having the two of you guys on tonight, and I hope that I can have you back on my panel in the near future, possibly in the next week, and maybe we can start where we left off and really get into the profiling aspects, because what you just talked about, Nina, we can literally do an entire show on with we have a few articles to read you. We have more from that podcast for you to listen to as well. So I'd love to have you guys back in the next week, but I think we're going to call it a night. Could you guys just take a moment? We'll start with 12 and then go to Nina. Please tell us your channel handle, where we can find you. And guys, please go over there and give them a comment, a like, check out one of their videos, and maybe consider subscribing to them. And I will shut up and let them take the floor.
Okay, my channel is called 12 Gauge Investigative. I don't know what else to say. I have videos that are quite different than the normal creators. I mean, most of my videos are kind of hands-on research stuff, but I do talk about substance use, and I do talk about my own stuff as well. One thing I was going to tell you, Nina, when I got sober, I started writing in a journal day one. And I still have that journal, and I've seen the progression of the demonic person into the sober person. And I share some of those journal entries on my channel, guys. So,
Oh my gosh.
And I also, I've been doing a little bit of support for addicts or people that struggle, because I am a therapist, even though I'm not doing therapy over there. I do some lives where we can get in there and we can talk about what's going on with you, give you a place to vent that's opinion free, you know, just a place where we offer support, kind of like a meeting. But, you know, I don't have a large following at this point, but hopefully that'll change in time. But I love that. I love the ability to be able to, you know, be kind of one-on-one with people. And that's basically what I'm about. You know, I'm going to get my bachelor's for criminal justice and psychology. I should graduate in June 2025. So I currently work with juveniles at a juvenile probation department, and that's what I do.
Congratulations. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Well, mine is just like my name. It's Nina_Kelly. Nina is what my grandbabies call me. I can't say grandbabies. My oldest will be 18 in October. So, but they call me Nina. Kelly is who I used to be. So I guess I have integrated Nina and Kelly and made one good person, you know. So, I started out on TikTok. I'm an ex-TikToker. My platform is Those Left Behind. David's son designed all the merch and everything to honor his father. Then anything that we do from Those Left Behind, we do Dabo's Kennels, and we put kennels at rehab centers so people can take their dogs. Because you wouldn't believe, sometimes an addict, that dog is everything to them.
Right.
And they will turn down going to rehab if they can't take their dog. So in David's honor, to keep, you know, to give his death purpose. Because if I don't give his death purpose, he's laying in the cold ground for nothing. And David's death can reach more lives than his life ever could. So I'm blessed to be his voice. And that's how I got on YouTube, was in January of this year. That's how long I've been doing it. I found the true crime community, and I had left TikTok because TikTok was getting toxic. And another thing was with me working with those left behind, I was in like this Grim Reaper algorithm, and I was like, I got to take a break. So in January, I found all y'all, and here I am. And I have no following.
Oh, well, you're building
Okay.
it. You're building it. And I just want to say, David is with you in spirit, especially now. And when you talk and tell his story, I can feel his presence. And I just want to say that cause that you're supporting is so beautiful. And I know all the animal lovers watching would love to support that cause too. So if you could just tell them where they can contribute to that, please.
Oh, see, I don't have a clue because we do it with our merchandise. I have never
Oh,
taken
no,
money
no.
from.
So you buy, so they buy the merchandise from
Yeah, like, well, I have the first shirt that me and Mason ever made. It actually stays on my chair beside my bed. And I will tell y'all that this shirt, I thought when I made my first shirt that it was going to be like this greatest thing ever. And so I get it out of the heat press, and it's like the most beautiful thing ever. And I'm like, yes. And Buddy, all of a sudden it was like, no, you wouldn't be making this shirt if your son wasn't dead. You can't cheer. You can't be, I mean, it was so conflicting emotionally, because I mean, can I turn my camera around? How do I do that?
I don't. Are you on your cell phone?
Yeah.
I think you have to start and go to settings, go to more, and then you go
More.
to settings, and then you will see if you go to camera, there's a drop down that says front camera or back camera.
Aha.
But I'm gonna forewarn you, my phone is about to run out of batteries.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
like kind of half sideways here.
Oh, you can't
trying
see
to
it.
reach the
But
plug.
But anyway, this is the first shirt, and those left behind, Mason actually did the font. It's actually in Heartbeat.
Oh.
So, and he'll be 16 in July, and he does all the designs and everything. Like the pictures that I send y'all, though,
Yes.
if you'll notice, they're purple and teal. Most
Yes.
of them are purple and teal. And purple is addiction awareness, and teal is recovery awareness. So all of my pictures, those are designs, and the wings and the heart is going to be in probably every design because that's how Mason wanted it.
I was
Awesome.
absolutely touched by the photo that you sent me today. They're beautiful. Do you create those with they're all that's all digital painting, correct?
Yes, yes.
They're beautiful, the phoenixes. So okay, I want to support that. So the next time I have you on, I'll plan on having you and Twelve. I'll work out a time for both of you to come back at the same time. This chemistry is perfect. And what I'd like to do is for those who do want to contribute to this, because this is an amazing cause, we'll get better details for you so you can directly have some sort of link where you can support Nina and what she's trying to do. And with that, I please encourage you to visit my guest channels. After I'm done with this, I'm going to go back into the description and I will just put their channel handles so you can just do a one click and go visit them. I'm going to play you guys a little outro, and it means so much to me that you're here. Let me turn on my camera. So I know that you could be anywhere on this Saturday, and I'm glad that you chose to be here with me. So
Thank
have
you.
a great weekend, and
Well,
I'll
thank you for
play.
having me on. Nina, it was nice to co-host with you. I've learned so much about you. I hope that you get to that 50 and above because I'm ready to see you live. Get on it. Get on it. Don't be nervous. Just be yourself, and the rest will come. Those of you, just, if I could suggest anything, just don't try to change anybody. Just be true to yourself.
Stay
The
true to
real
your
ones
past.
will the real ones will stay by your side.
That's right.
when you're yourself in life and you do everything, some people might not like you, but the people who love you, love you. So always be
Yes.
yourself. And it was such a pleasure having both of you on tonight. Thank you to our wonderful audience. And I know you guys could be anywhere on this Saturday night, so I'm glad you're here. And I'm just going to play you guys an outro. Please leave your comments down below, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Oops, and go. Turn this music off so I can say goodbye to you guys.
And with that, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Peace.